Now move on to the next CEC member signed up to speak is Yatin Chu. Your microphone has now been enabled.
Thank you very much. Good evening, PEP members. My name is Yatin Chu. I'm a CEC1 member and SLT member of my dual language school and co-president of Place NYC. I'm here speaking for myself. In the past 48 hours, over 2,000 people signed a change.org petition urging the mayor and chancellor from exploiting the COVID crisis to remove all common objective criteria used for admissions. Those people are just the tip of the iceberg. Families are outraged that their voices were ignored for the K-8 grading policy. Petition signers demand that Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Carenza leave academics-based admissions in place and allow districts and schools to use alternative criteria for 1 year to identify students starting in September 2021. The Chancellor at the last PEP meeting on May 7th said that tweaks will be made to the admissions policy for just 1 year. In that case, only the current 4th and 7th grade families will be impacted. Why don't we simply ask those families what they think should be used to determine the academic future of their children? While it's nice that the DOE wants to engage all parent leaders on such a narrow and temporary tweak to our school policy, it's not a good use of our time or resources. With so much going on with remote learning, summer programs, and school reopening, why don't we leave this decision to the districts and schools to make the best one for themselves this year? There are reasonable alternatives that schools could use to identify students most prepared for their rigorous academic curriculum. No student should be penalized for what the pandemic has brought onto our lives. Marking period grades before March stands and should count towards admissions. State tests from last year should be used as a cross-school measure, ensuring balance to potential bias in school-specific grading. Attendance before a winter break on February 14th should count. These are all reasonable alternatives that schools can and should use in their evaluation of students for the entering class of 2021. I also want to say a few words regarding our deep cuts to education, possible deep cuts to our education budget. Under our city's grim economic outlook, we recognize that our education budget will be impacted, and we do need to make cuts wisely. I have two proposals that will save $300 million with no harm to our students' education and have additional intangible benefits. First, the city wasted $800 million on the renewal program. That money is gone, but wasteful spending continues in the form of community schools. So far, we've already spent $600 million over 3 years on just 250 schools out of our 1,600 schools. The RAND Corporation concluded that there was almost no positive academic outcome. We would save $200 million annually from our education budget and increase efficiency by providing these additional non-educational services outside the schools in the community to benefit the entire community. Second, small schools are highly inefficient and should be merged. Schools need budgetary scale to provide what our students deserve. The cost of principals, assistant principals, counselors, they're all fixed costs per school. If we can merge just 100 of the 275 high schools with fewer than 500 students at a cost savings of $1 million each, that's $100 million. By merging small schools, we could also realize benefits from economies of scale on top of the direct cost savings. My two proposals will save us at least $300 million with no detrimental impact to classroom learning for all of our students, and with the upside of improving the efficiency and quality of our high school programming. As the last point, we need to eliminate wasteful spending that have no positive outcome for our students, regardless of how small those dollars are, because small dollars add up. For example, the Chancellor installed a new layer of 9 executive superintendents to the DOE structure that is costing us $2.5 million per year with no obvious benefits. Separately, CECs received an additional $5,000 to our budgets this year, even though most CECs are not even using up their previously allocated $20,000. This leads to many councils trying to devise ways to use up their budget lest they lose it. And there is seemingly unessential DOE bureaucracy to support CECs that should be examined. these small savings can add up to a huge sum pretty quickly. And one last point as we go into contract discussion. As I review many of the contracts that are going to be evaluated, I think it will be very worthwhile for all of these contracts to state just how many students are being served by every single one of these services. It is a very opaque process that a parent looking at it carefully cannot tell just how many students are impacted. And I think that's something that we really need to change about the whole contracting process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.